Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something totally wild, an absolutely fascinating experiment sitting right at the cutting edge of law and technology. Just imagine taking a complex, controversial criminal case, pulling out all the core legal documents, so the indictment, the trial judgment, the appeal, and the defendant's own statements, and then feeding that entire stack of paperwork into 6 of the world's most powerful large language models. We're talking ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Qwen, DeepSeek, and Copilot. The goal here? Well, it was to see if these totally different AIs, acting as a sort of comparative legal diagnostic tool, would actually reach a consensus on the verdict. And the results? Let me tell you, they offer a really fascinating glimpse into the future of digital justice.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 6 sections. 1, the Chen Jingyuan case. 2, the human rights framework. 3, the AI legal consensus. 4, the chain of legal errors. 5, unique AI perspectives. And 6, AI as a legal tool.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the Chen Jingyuan case. Now, you might be wondering, can just retweeting something actually land you in a prison cell? This is the central question the models had to figure out. The case revolves around Dr. Chen Jingyuan, who's a physics PhD and an independent scholar. He was actually sentenced to 20 months in prison. And his crime? Simply retweeting content on Twitter. The source data points out that his account had fewer than 100 followers. And the retweets, they were just art, like this one girl with an umbrella comic, some historical data, and political commentary from official foreign embassy accounts. He literally created no original content. It was purely just the sharing of information.
So for hitting the retweet button, he was convicted of a charge known as picking quarrels and provoking trouble, or PXQT for short. What's super interesting here is how all 6 AI models immediately flag the specific charge as a pocket crime. They pointed out that because the legal definition of this charge is so incredibly vague and broad, it acts exactly like a giant pocket. It's basically capable of catching almost any behavior the authorities decide they want to target, especially when it comes to online expression. Moving right along to Section 2, the human rights framework. To evaluate this domestic criminal conviction, the models needed a baseline. So what did they do? Acting completely neutrally, they all turned to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR, as their universal benchmark. Specifically, they cited Article 19, which is all about the freedom of opinion and expression. The AIs evaluated the court's actions strictly against this gold standard, figuring out if locking someone up for retweeting was a legitimate legal move or a blatant violation of the fundamental human right to seek, receive, and impart information.
Which brings us to Section 3, the AI legal consensus. And honestly, this is the most surprising finding from the entire experiment. Despite being built by completely different companies with totally different architectures, every single one of the 6 models agreed on 4 fatal flaws in this conviction. First up, entity missing. Basically, the law says you have to prove the retweets caused serious public disorder. The AIs looked at the facts and found 0 evidence of this. No protests, no chaos out in the streets, just a few retweets to a tiny audience. Second, subjective presumption. The court just guessed his intent instead of actually proving it. Third, procedural collapse. The AIs called out a closed-door trial and a total lack of proper appellate review. And fourth, human rights violations, specifically regarding that freedom of expression standard we just talked about. Let's look closer at that procedural breakdown in Section 4, the chain of legal errors. The models didn't just disagree with the final verdict. They literally deconstructed the entire trial step by step. ChatGPT actually framed this as a micro-narrative of legal errors. Step 1, the indictment. The AI pointed out the prosecution's document was practically empty. They claimed he caused a severe disturbance, but gave absolutely no facts to back it up. Step 2, the trial. Instead of demanding hard evidence, the judges relied on subjective assumptions to lock in the conviction. And Step 3, the appeal. The models absolutely roasted the appellate court for just doing a basic paper review. They held no actual hearings, completely ignored the defense's arguments, and basically just rubber-stamped that first flawed verdict. I really want to highlight a stark contrast from that second step, because this was a massive red flag for all the AIs. Okay, so to convict someone of spreading rumors, a court has to prove they actually knew the information was false. But since Dr. Chen was just retweeting art and opinions, the court didn't have any actual proof of malice. So what did they do? According to the source documents, the court explicitly argued that because Dr. Chen has a PhD and a high level of education, he just should have known better. Every single AI model tore this apart, replacing the strict legal requirement for objective proof with a massive assumption just based on the guy's education level.
As the models pointed out, that is a complete and total violation of the presumption of innocence. Let's shift gears to Section 5, Unique AI Perspectives. So while they all agreed on the big picture, what makes this experiment so cool is seeing the unique cognitive style each AI brought to the exact same pile of data. The diversity of thought here is incredible. Gemini zoomed right in on deep legal logic and the defendant's subjective intent. ChatGPT was all over the structural, systemic breakdown of the whole trial process. Grok, interestingly enough, took this highly philosophical stance, treating the case as a macro-level issue of global human rights and civilization. DeepSeek got super technical, breaking down exactly how vague legal concepts were unfairly expanded. Quen was the pragmatist of the group. It practically acted like a defense attorney and drafted a checklist for legal relief and appeal strategies. And Copilot focused heavily on direct legal mapping, exposing the exact gaps in the judge's reasoning. To give you an idea of just how deep this analysis goes, look at this wild detail from Gemini. While he was in prison, Dr. Chen actually wrote a letter of defense. Now remember, he's a physics PhD, right? So he literally used concepts from system science, specifically Gödel's incompleteness theorem, to argue his innocence. He explained that as a scientist, his job is to collect and analyze all information, meaning his intent was pure academic exploration, not some malicious disruption. Gemini completely caught this. The AI praised this wild intersection of physics and legal theory, calling Dr. Chen's defense a brilliant, dimensional strike against the prosecution's incredibly weak logic. Finally, let's wrap this up with Section 6, AI as a legal tool.
We've gone through the breakdown, but why does this all matter? Well, the core takeaway is what the source material calls the digital legal consensus. This experiment really proves that large language models are so much more than just fancy text generators. They are fully capable of being highly sophisticated comparative legal diagnostic tools. When you feed the exact same set of facts to these diverse systems, they can objectively map out structural flaws, pinpoint logical fallacies, and measure local court actions against global human rights standards. And they do it all without bias, without emotion, and without any political pressure. Which leaves us with this final, really profound question to think about. If a panel of digital jurors, 6 totally different AI models, can effortlessly and unanimously spot severe legal inconsistencies and procedural collapses in a human trial, how is this going to change the future of the rule of law? I mean, could AI one day serve as a standard, objective check against judicial overreach? It's a fascinating thought, and it's absolutely one that's going to shape the future of global justice. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning.